Let's take a look at your market news now. Asian markets were mixed on Tuesday as the Bank of Japan tweaked its monetary policy in a bid to make its massive easing program sustainable. Stocks recovered early losses fueled by a slump among US tech firms. Tokyo's key Nikkei index closed marginally higher, edging up just after the BOJ announced it had revised down inflation forecasts while making minor changes to its ultra-loose monetary policy for the first time in nearly 2 years. The Nikkei closing at 22,553 points. The Hang Seng was down 0.5% and the Shanghai Composite closing up 0.26%. A broad sell-off in technology stocks pushed all three major US stock indexes lower on Monday, with the Nasdaq Composite Index posting its third consecutive loss of more than 1% for the first time in 3 years, just days after hitting a record high. The Dow Jones Industrial Average also dropped off 0.5%, while the S&P 500 lost a similar margin to close off the day's trading at 2,802 points. Now for more on the markets, we cross to the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Arabile Gumede is there. Arabile, good afternoon. What's taking place in the markets today?
Yeah, good afternoon, Zinga. Well, as usual, the market in itself being moved a little bit more by the Asia trading. Not looking so good, as you mentioned over there as well. So the likes of Tencent and a few industrial stocks will also get a little hammered here in South Africa as well, particularly the likes of Tencent and what happens to Naspers here in South Africa as well. It fell around 2.33% a little bit earlier on in Asian trade. So today it is down as well, around 2.3% here locally. That is Naspers. But let's take a look at how the rest of the European and local markets are faring. Well, you would have seen, of course, that the market is fairly down around a 0.25 percentage point there as well at this point in time. So Maudi Linzwane, who is from Lehumo Capital, joins us now as we unpack that and a whole lot more as well. Maudi, thank you so much for the time this afternoon. A bit of a drawback on the JSE. What do you think is driving that sentiment? What's the negativity coming from, having seen us at least tick a little high yesterday?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Arabile. I mean, you look at what happened overseas overnight. I mean, when you look at Asia, you look at as well what happened in the US last night. I think when you look at the JSE this morning, we pretty much, it's the mirror image of really what transpired. Trade has been a little bit to the weak, to the downside. Yesterday, we also had the similar kind of volatility opening in the red, but of course making a bit of a recovery towards the end. Today, we, obviously are under a bit of pressure, the likes of Naspers. You continue to see some weaknesses coming through, especially in the tech space. Yeah. The likes of Tencent, Naspers being the largest stock on our bourse, is likely to have that negative impact. And I think we're seeing that you get a sense that there's a bit of a wait and see. There's non-farm payrolls coming through later this week on Friday. So I think there's also that waiting for that type of report to kind of see which way the direction is going to be. You do get a sense that market is losing a bit of steam. Yeah. Here's one report that certainly won't help South Africa. Unemployment sitting at 27.2%, coming through from 26.7%. So that's a big jump of 0.5 percentage points. But seemingly the rand unaffected by it thus far. Yeah, I mean that pretty much that report confirms what we already suspected would be the terrible number. I mean, if you look at the numbers in the first quarter and you look at how we've had all those PMI data coming through disappointing to the downside, it only said the activity within the mining and the manufacturing is still under pressure. A little bit of a surprise, I see the mining has ticked up a little. Yeah. But of course, manufacturing still remains one of the sector which is just not coming to the party when it comes to those job numbers. Yeah. And we've got to turn that situation around. If we are to even make a dent on that unemployment number, we certainly have to turn the situation around.
As you said there as well, and of course the ladies in the studio did say a little bit earlier as well, manufacturing increasing 105,000 jobs, community and personal services, 93,000, sorry, a drawdown, yes. And mining increasing 38,000 in terms of jobs as well. So are we dealing with the problem correctly though? Do you feel like we have the right things in place to actually dent it properly? Are we just throwing money at the problem?
Look, we're dealing with the legacy with a long period of situation where we did not take care of the sectors as we should have. And it's difficult, it's impossible for us to try and turn things around. And I know there's so much expectation around Cyril Ramaphosa and the current leadership to turn things around within a short period of time. Unfortunately, these things are going to take some time. It's going to take some more investments into the sector. And I think we are beginning to see some good messages. There are investments spent. If you look around the message that came around from the BRICS summit, it talks to the countries that are committed to ensuring that we do turn around the situation, especially within the mining and the manufacturing. So I think it bodes well for the future.
Sure.
However, we're still stuck in a very difficult position.
Yeah, and we have PMI as well coming out tomorrow, so that'll be a clear indicator as well. But the second quarter in itself, growth-wise, the Reserve Bank governor on Friday said that he doesn't expect us to have a recession, so a second quarter of negative growth. But looking at Q2 unemployment and seeing the sectors in particular that went down, manufacturing is one of the biggest.
It's one of the biggest. And look, while we also tend to agree with the governor there that perhaps a negative number is unlikely, we are going to be very close to just about missing it, and that's not good. We should be growing at way above 2%, and if we're still hovering around the just under 1%, it's not good for our economy.
Yeah.
But of course, again, as I said, I think the situation is a history more than the future. The future does look a lot more promising than the past. But there's so many other things that needs to be sorted. For example, the mining charter still has to be resolved. Number of other policies that still have to be effective for us to turn the situations around.
Quite an interesting one on that front. But on the company news front, not necessarily listed, but Vele Investments, which was a keen stakeholder, of course, in VBS Bank as well, which was placed under curatorship, has been completely liquidated. 3 board members have been sequestrated. What does that tell you about how companies have sort of been managed over the last few years?
No, look, corporate government has certainly come under a lot of spotlight in the country. I mean, whether we talk about KPMG, we talk about the VBS situation.
Yeah, an African bank,
an African bank,
can't forget that.
And a number of those companies. And I think it really needs to change. We need to come back and reinstill confidence within the corporate South Africa. We do have a very solid, overseeing institutions that needs to do their job and make sure that some of these things don't happen. It's a very unfortunate situation what happened at VBS. Lots of money lost, lots of people affected by it. I mean, 1.5 billion is what is estimated to have just gone and gone missing. And unfortunately, that situation has to be arrested if we are to attract more investments into the country.
13.11 for a US dollar now as well. Pretty much 1/3% to the good. That's how the market is looking for now. It's pretty much flat, the JSE for now, maybe staging the same recovery it did yesterday. But we'll see how the rest of it goes. The Bitcoin, $7,964. That's for 1 Bitcoin. Well, that's the look at the markets for now. We'll come back with a lot more news as well right after this with Nompumelelo and Nzinga.